Hey Gameheads, and today we are going to take a look at some of the new offline games. This isn't going to be a long intro, so we are going to just, dive straight into it. Kicking things off with a game that isn't technically on the Play Store. I'm not even sure if this spot is official, but here we are. Figment 2. If this game looks familiar, then you've probably played the first game, Figment, where you control Dusty and his parrot buddy, Piper, exploring a wild mindscape in search of courage. This time you're up against a creeping darkness, corrupting the once peaceful world of the mind. It's an adventure puzzle game with a deep narrative, musical elements, and a strong focus on the complexity of the mind. Now, I don't have a strong opinion on the Figment games, don't get me wrong, they look gorgeous. The reviews are great, but they just don't do much for me. Still, I won't pretend it doesn't look interesting. So if you're into that type of games, go check it out. Next up, we got A Perfect Day to Go Back, a heavily narrative driven game with a time looping twist. You have to love those. You play as a middle school kid trying to live out the perfect day, only to realize that the day keeps resetting. The only way forward, making different decisions or choices, tweaking little details, and chasing that one perfect outcome to finally move on. The game is set in the 1990s, right at the turn of a new decade, and it plays a lot with the themes of change, how it can be scary, unpredictable, and sometimes just plain overwhelming. Now, this one really caught my attention. The story, amazing characters, solid, and the animation absolutely spectacular. If you're into narrative heavy driven games like Life is Strange or anything from the Telltale series, this might be right up your alley. Moving on, we've got Still Paws, a Netflix original from a supposedly well-known developer. It's an action beat-em-up brawler featuring a robot cat lady with more robot cat bodies. Apparently, every 100 years a fabled and colossal tower suddenly appears, and together with your mecha animal bodies, you set on a quest to discover the mysteries of its origin. The whole thing just looks like a mess, if I'm being honest. That said, some people seem to be into it, and the developer is supposedly a big deal. So if you have a Netflix subscription and enjoy this type of games, maybe give it a shot. But for me, yeah, I'm not feeling the hype. Next up is I Am Your Beast, a high-octane FPS that throws you headfirst into pure chaos. You play as Alfonso Hardens, a retired ex-special ops agent who has been pestered for one last job one too many times. But instead of complying, he now snaps. His officers' response? Having the entire military and guerrilla forces after him, and his own respond, tearing through anyone that crosses his path. The game features explosive, fast-paced action with a sleek comic book art style. Expect intense gunfights, high-speed movements, wall climbing, and deadly traps, and enough destruction to make you feel like an unstoppable commando. It checks all the boxes of what you would love in an FPS, especially if you're into Doom. But unfortunately, or fortunately depending on how you see it, it's currently only available on mobile on iOS, with no Android release in sight. From high-octane action to something a little more cozier, let's talk about Great Coffee, Good Coffee. As the name suggests, you are running your very own coffee shop, and it instantly gives you that nostalgic charm of classic restaurant simulators. The graphics are adorable, the gameplay looks solid, and it's the type of game you can easily sink hours into without feeling it. It's cozy but with just a dash of competitive spirit to make things, more interesting. From the warm music to the ambient sounds, everything is designed to fully immerse you in that coffee shop vibe. That said, just a heads up, the game might have some optimization issues as the current ratings aren't too great. But if that doesn't bother you, it's available on both Android and iOS, and yeah, I think it's a good game. Wake up guys, we've got a new Lara Croft game on mobile, Lara Croft and the Garden of Light. Well, new might be kind of a stretch since this is actually a 17-year-old console game finally making its way to the mobile front. It's a top-down isometric Tomb Raider style adventure where Lara battles monsters, solves puzzles, and does all the classic acrobatic moves you'd expect, just in a slightly less graphically intense, old-school, top-down isometric format. Think of it like classic Warcraft era games but with a Tomb Raider twist. If you are even remotely a fan of the series, this is definitely worth checking out. Plus, it comes with controller support for that extra bit of smooth gameplay. Next up is Super Farming Boy, and while it's not fully released yet, it's available on select regions for iOS only. In this game, you play as a super powered boy who can fly, harvest and farm, but it's not just about peaceful agriculture. You also happen to be on a quest for revenge against an evil couple who kidnapped your mother and is holding your friends captive. So while you're attending to crops, you're also fighting to get them back and apparently also buying back your abilities from him. It's got a Stardew Valley vibe with more cartoony, vibrant aesthetics. Everything feels bouncy and alive and just plain refreshing. I would definitely keep an eye out for this one when it finally drops on Android, but if you got an iOS device, especially an iPad, you might be able to check this one out. Next up is Wall World, a roguelite with a touch of tower defense mechanics. You play as a tiny, pixel-style miner on a planet made entirely of walls. Inside your spider-like mobile base, you traverse this strange world, pick a spot to mine and gather resources, all while knowing that at some point you have to rush back to defend your home from a relentless enemy horde. The game features procedurally generated worlds, each with varying challenges, biomes and resources, making every run feel different. The core premise is simple, but there is something really endearing about it. You can enhance your spider mansion with all sorts of cool modifications, make cool turrets and lots more. As you dig deeper, you also stumble across survivors who can sell you gear and resources along with a scattered relic that slowly piece together the bigger picture of what's really going on. It's weird, but in the best way possible. Next up is Grand Mountain Adventure 2. If you played the first game, you already know what to expect. But for those kind of unfamiliar, think Otto's Odyssey, but in a beautiful 2D rendered open world environment. You will carve your way down stunning snow mountains, taking on all sorts of winter sports like ice skating, mountain gliding and more. It's all about pure chilled out fun on icy slopes, and honestly, it looks fantastic. If you're into open world winter sport adventures, this one definitely worth checking out. Next up is Serial Cleaner, a 1970s style action game that takes cleaning very seriously. And no, I'm not talking about just house chores. You play as Bob Lena, a regular Joe who's been roped into cleaning up after mob hits and other shady deals. What is your job? Erase all evidence before the cops arrive. But trust me, it's no easy task. You need to plan your moves carefully, avoid getting spotted, dodge cops, and make your escape without getting caught. It's got a rich story about a guy stuck working for the mob, plus extra levels to tackle after finishing the main mission. The game is published by Playdigious, and if you know about them, which you should if you follow my channel, you know they handle mobile ports like pros. It gives off some serious Space Marshal vibes, which is a good thing. So yeah, definitely checking this one out. It looks amazing. Wrapping up the list, we've got Dredge, a fishing game with a dark twist. At first glance, it looks like a peaceful fishing adventure where you sail through murky waters, reel in your catch and sell it to a merchant. But beneath that calm facade or facade lies something much more sinister. The ocean holds secrets, horrific Lovecraftian style secrets, and the deeper you go, the more unsettling things become. Dredge leans heavily into cosmic horror, and from the looks of the trailer, it's shaping up to be something truly intriguing. If you're into fishing management simulation or wouldn't mind a psychological horror twist, this one is definitely worth checking out. And apparently, a lot of you have been waiting for this one as well, so here it is. And with that, we are done with today's list. So which offline game are you excited to try out? So let me know in the comment section. As usual, it's your host P-Dog. Thanks greatly for watching, and I will see you in the next one. I'm out though.